Well, I haven't dematerialised and reappeared on the Great Wall of China, but I am watching the pictures like you are, and you wouldn't probably need me to tell you that the Great Wall is, in fact, the symbol of China, so it's not surprising that Chinese authorities chose that site, the Great Wall, as their launch contribution, if you like, to the 24-hour Millennium broadcast. It was pretty predictable they should choose the wall. The wall, of course, stands for, as a testimony, the Chinese say, to courage, wisdom and perseverance. And I guess there isn't a nation on earth that perseveres against the odds more than China does and has over the years. Now, of course, with its in excess of 1.2 billion people. I don't know whether we've seen this sort of thing on the Great Wall of China before. It's not exactly the tourist view of the wall. I don't know too much about the music, but this music we know, of course, is traditional Chinese, but the earlier stuff that you were hearing with that wonderful picturesque coverage of the wall was a particularly melodic thing for Chinese music, which is usually more of this kind of thing. Sunset arriving at the Great Wall of China. And what about this for a juxtaposition of television? From the Great Wall of China to the Great H.G. and Roy. What do you think so far, guys?
Well, it's been an absolute knockout, and that rendition from the Chinese, the Great Wall of Sherbets, how's that? I've never heard it sound better, George. Don't be afraid of that marvellous way the Chinese have of interpreting Australian classics. They do it to a T, and all that I can't get enough of that, George. And that's the sort of night it is. Roy, the highlights have been magnificent, outstanding. Okay. I'm just wondering what you'd say with the highlights so far.
Look, I'd agree with you, HG, and I'd agree with George that the Great Wall of China, seeing those entombed warriors just standing there so still, so stiffly as they've done for thousands of years, and then to go to that gear, and I try to sing along with that. I love Chinese music. I'm a big rap for a an octave that has more notes in it than the 8 that we have. I love all that. Yeah. I don't quite get it. I don't quite have the ear for it, but I love it. Yes. So that was a highlight, as was the fireworks. And a lot of people say to me, Roy, fireworks, are they better on television than live? Yes, they are. I mean, we're here watching them live, and they were quite ordinary. Seeing them on television, they just come alive.
Now,
marvellous.
Roy, so far there's been a lot of emphasis about New Zealand, and I'm just wondering if over the last 100 years, Australia and New Zealand have moved closer together or further away. What would you say was the current relationship between Australia and New Zealand? Because they do occupy a very curious relationship in the world.
It's a very good question. It's interesting to note, HG, that almost to the date, 100 years ago, New Zealand had the chance to join Australia in federation. And we're telling the world this because the world is watching. The world doesn't realise that New Zealand was so close to Australia, and they could have been our 7th and 8th states, the North and South Island of New Zealand. But they decided to go their own way, to be their own nation and their own people. And you'd have to say, without being patronising, that they've done very, very well, haven't they? Australians love New Zealanders. We see them as sort of second cousins, losers, really. We see them as being. But whenever people mention the Shaky Isles to me, or the land of the long white cloud, or the boiling springs, I get a little misty-eyed.
Oh, yeah, well, he does.
You know, I love New Zealand. I love New Zealanders. I just wish they'd have joined us all those years ago. Yeah. And then we'd feel as if we know them a little bit better, because as it is, we hardly know them at all. Yeah. They're like strangers to us, aren't they? They weren't even part of Gondwana. Look, going really back in time, when the supercontinent here, I don't know if we can see it here, but there was a time when most of these nations were fused as one at the bottom of the earth. New Zealand wasn't part of us then, and they're not part of us now.
And Roy, we know where you stand on lists, but this tonight, of course, a very special night. The close of the millennium, the close of the century, the close of the decade, the close of the year. And people do get weird about resolutions. And I'm just wondering, Roy, if you have any advice for those who might be thinking about making a resolution tonight. Are you thumbs up for the resolutions or thumbs down for the resolutions? What is the Slaven mindset vis-a-vis your New Year's resolution?
Actually, I'm a big rap for revolutions and resolutions, as you well know. I like to make a resolution every year. This year I decided my resolution would be to hit the bag a little bit harder. And I've done my bloody best to do so. And a lot of people have said to me, Roy, gee, you're hitting the bag a lot harder this year. And it's true, yes. I have been. And I think this year I will be making a resolution, actually, and that is, to be a little bit more Australian. Yes. If I possibly can be. And to understand people a little bit more. And if I can throw a third one in there, to try and understand what Mark Taylor talks about. I've tried with the bloke, you know, a little bit lost on international guests who aren't followers of cricket. But Mark Taylor, I've tried for a long, long time to understand him, and I don't understand a word. So I'm really going to try this year, as well as being a little bit more Australian, a little bit more understanding, and again, if I can, just try to hit that bag just that a little bit harder.
And Roy, for those who may be making resolutions and they feel a sense of failure overwhelming them at about 12 o'clock tomorrow, whenever tomorrow should come in your part of the world, what advice do you have for them about pushing on and maintaining their resolve vis-a-vis their resolution?
Well, I've often said, HG, that the way you spend the first night and the first day of the 1,000 years is pretty well much how you're going to spend the rest of your days in that 1,000 years. So it's pretty important to get off on a good start. So I would advise people, don't drink too much, don't be silly, don't party too hard, savour the moment, yes. Stay clear of mind, yes. And clear of body for that first day, and the rest of the 1,000 years will fall into place.
And when you decided to just punch the bag a little bit harder, did you set yourself any qualitative assessment of your punching? Did you decide you got some sort of punchometer out and said, OK, it's up to 0.01 improvement, I'll go for 0.02 tomorrow?
Yeah. Well, I like hitting a brick wall, HG, as you well know. And if I've busted a couple of metacarpals, I know I'm hitting it pretty hard. That's what I aim for, to give the surgeon something to do with my hand. Now, our lists have gone through the roof.
Yes, they have. The internet site's been taking a terrible pounding. And, Roy, you've got another list here concerning, I think it's your top 5 New Zealanders.
Yes, I do have the top 5.
Can you take us through it?
Yes, I can, actually. And for those who missed us a little bit earlier on, we are playing a game, a sort of homespun party game for you at home. That is to come up with a list of 5 things. And we came up with the best 5 years in our view. But now the 5 best New Zealanders, to our mind, are as follows. Richard Wilkins, John Walker, Peter Snell, Jenny Shipley, yes, and Shane Dye.
Shane Dye.
They're my top 5 New Zealanders. And the talking point there, yes, probably, HG, what would be your guess as the talking point?
Well, so many choices. Jonah Lomu?
Oh, well, I was going to say Sir Edmund Hillary.
Sir Edmund Hillary.
Yes, the second person on Everest, as you might recall, and New Zealanders would recall this as they're watching tonight, that Edmund Hillary was the second person on Mount Everest. Sherpa Tenzing had to drag him up, carry him up over that last 100 yards.
And so we come to our next toast, and our next toast is to Fiji, Roy.
Yes.
In 25 words or less, Fiji, what does it mean to you?
It means to me Siddhavati Rambuka, Ratusa Kamasisi Mara, and Timothy Bavandra. I still remember you, Timothy, and the good work you did. So, to Fiji.
We ask Australia to be upstanding and charge your glasses as you take the toast to Fiji. And what a marvellous place it is, George. I don't know whether you've had a chance to visit it, but bloody hell, it's worth going.
Beautiful.
Can't pronounce the name, so why would you go there? There's HG and Roy, and thanks very much, Roy, for cementing relations with New Zealand as profoundly as you did. It's probably the biggest incident since the underarm bowling incident. In preparation for tonight's program, we asked dozens of Australians from all fields of endeavour to give us their thoughts and aspirations for the next millennium, and we will be featuring them throughout the next 25 hours of 2000 Today.
The genius of Australia has been to reject the bad bits of her past, but embrace the good bits. We rejected the class consciousness of the British and the other Europeans, but we hung on to parliamentary government, the rule of law, and this capacity to be selective about what we inherited and what we discarded has been part of the Australian achievement, and we have built this remarkably cohesive society which owes a lot to our European origins, but not everything. If I look forward to the next millennium, and I see an Australian nation that is very sure of itself. I mean, I find that Australian people who are quite certain about their identity, they believe in their country very passionately. They recognise that it's strong. They see there are people to be reconciled. We need to come properly to terms with the challenge of reconciliation with the Indigenous people, but that's a two-way process. They have a role to play in that, as well as the rest of the community. And we've demonstrated just recently in East Timor a capacity to show leadership in a good cause, a just cause in our own region. And that speaks well of Australia's strength, its values as a country, and it's brought strength to its reputation around the world. The sense of belief in the decency of the Australian people is the strongest emotion that I have on the eve of the new millennium. They are the most decent people in the world. To be their Prime Minister is the greatest privilege in the world.
Prime Minister John Howard, I imagine, watching the fireworks as we speak with a few of his mates from the Cabinet at Kirribilli. You're watching 2000 Today here on your ABC, and we'll be crossing live around the world and around Australia for the next 25 hours, a day and a bit, as we welcome in the year 2000. As another feature for the 2000 Today special, children right across the country have been making what we've called resolution lanterns, New Year being the time for resolutions and all of that, as you just heard, Roy's resolutions. Here are our first lanterns from the tiny town of Thawa in the ACT.
The Thawa community is a mixed bag in lots of ways. It's a real rural community, but it's on the edge of a capital city. It's a very diverse community, incredibly supportive of the school. Over the full 100 years of the school, it's been an amazingly supportive community. That nurturing aspect of a small school allows for all aspects, young and old, in the community to come together and participate in decisions about their future. And it's not a bad idea at the end of 1,000 years to think about what's happened to our world, what's happened in our world, and then think about how we would like it to be in the future. Because you guys are the guys who are going to make the future of our country, of our village. So that's why we're asking you today to come up with some wishes. We're going to write all these wishes on lanterns that we're going to make. With our wishes that we're going to make today, it's really up to us and all the other people in the world to make them come true.
What do you want for your world? Less shooting animals. Very dangerous monsters. What would you like, Jack? Fresh water? No, robbers. I reckon we should have more police. Robbers got to the moon. I'm not sure. Do you want me to write that? No, dangerous animals. Dangerous.
What would you do with the fresh water if you had fresh water?
Drink it. Be safe. We need more native fish in our river. Nice green grass. They can bite your finger off. Time's up, time's up, time's up.
The kids are really good leaders, and I think that as the next generation, they see themselves as being the future leaders, and they're quite confident and quite competent to lead us into the next millennium.
Just trying to trim the edges.
My wish is for my family and me is to get the extension finished.
And what do you want for your country?
I would like the Indigenous people to have some more land back. I want my world to be safe and for people to live in peace.
Out of the mouths of babes, the first of our resolution lanterns. You're watching 2000 Today on ABC television.
If I had to nominate someone to be remembered in the next century, I'd choose someone who was born in the last, 130 years ago, in fact, Sir Henry Wood. And he, together with Robert Newman, started the proms. The proms still give that ability for young people to listen to great music at a reasonable price. And I was one of those people. I listened to Vaughan Williams and Ravel and Debussy, and it turned me on to the sound of music.
Well, my nomination is Margot Fonteyn, as she was such an image for British ballet. She made us a household name, and she gave a magic to our art that I don't think will ever be forgotten. People that had never seen ballet would come to see her. Just her walking into the studio was like a gasp, because she does carry this kind of aura around her. And she said some amazing things to me that I'll never forget. She had a wonderful, clean quality, not fussy, no frills attached, which was a wonderful style, and hopefully it will never be forgotten.
I've actually nominated Roger Bannister and his achievement of breaking that elusive 4-minute mile. For many, many years, so many people have been trying to break it. And a lot of the doctors and scientists actually were saying, I don't think this is physically possible. And there was Roger Bannister, a medical student that came out and thought, yep, I'm going to have a real go at this. And in 1954, he broke that 4-minute mile. I really do believe that if you set your goals, which is what Roger Bannister did, that you can really go out there, work hard, and you can make those goals come true.
The poet John Keats deserves to be remembered and honoured for 3 reasons among many. The first, that he has poetic genius. Still more later flowers for the bees, until they think warm days will never cease, for summer has o'erbrimmed their clammy sounds. Secondly, he's a great radical spirit who lived a radical life and gets his radicalism into his politics in very fascinating, unostentatious ways. And thirdly, he's a great human spirit and a great lover of his companion Fanny Brawne, the woman who he adored for the last part of his tragically short life. I like the idea of a sort of Keats capsule going off into infinity, in which he gets the rewards that he was denied during his short existence.
If you've just tuned in, this is 2000 Today on ABC television, a worldwide link-up with over 60 countries, bringing you celebrations from around the globe to mark the arrival of the year 2000. We're about to cross now to New Zealand, where they're just over 10 minutes away from midnight. We'll be seeing images from all over the land of the long white cloud as the Kiwis welcome the year 2000 from Auckland, where Split Enz are on stage right now to Dave Dobbyn's concert in Christchurch and everywhere in between. Fiji hits midnight, bang at the same time as New Zealand, so we'll sneak a peek at what's going on there as well. Before we go to New Zealand, though, I should say that in Adelaide, unlike the eastern states of Australia, the weather's looking pretty smart. I think it's cool there with moderate winds, and they're expecting good weather up until midnight, and you'll notice the countdown clock on your screens right now. And, of course, Adelaide is half an hour behind the eastern states. Let's go now to New Zealand.
I don't wanna say I want you, even though I want you so much. Wrapped up in conversation, whispered in a hush. Though I'm frightened by the word, it's time I made it hurt. No more empty self-possession. Vision swept under the light. message to my girl. No more empty self-possession. Vision swept under the mat. It's no use resolution. It's more than that. So I sing it to the world, simple message to my girl. No more empty self-possession. Vision swept under the mat. It's no use resolution. It's more than that. And there's nothing quite as real as the touch of your sweet hand. I can spend the rest of my life buried in the sands. Oh. Yeah.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're very close now. We're very close to a new millennium. For a minute, if the last 2,000 years are worth anything, it's because we can learn from them. Just for a second, what legacy you will give to the future. Look around right now, look at your loved ones, look at the strangers, go on, have a good look at those faces, and think, what and how can I affect them in the future? What will my legacy be for them and for those yet to be born, for those yet to come? Okay, I'm getting it through now, ladies and gentlemen. Take a look at each other. Say goodbye and get ready to say hello. We're at... It's coming up, ladies and gentlemen. There's about a minute to go. Oh, it's building. Here it comes. I can feel it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm checking the watch. "50 seconds to go, ladies and gentlemen. Here it is. It's official. 50 seconds. Let's have a look where we are. 30 seconds. 30 seconds, ladies and gentlemen, and counting. Here we go. 25, 22, 21, 20, and 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, and 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 30 seconds. 30 seconds, ladies and gentlemen, and counting. Here we go. 25, 22, 21, 20, and 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, and 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 30 seconds. 30 seconds, ladies and gentlemen, and counting. Here we go. 25, 22, 21, 20, and 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, and 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 30 seconds. 30 seconds, ladies and gentlemen, and counting. Here we go. 25, 22, 21, 20, and 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, and 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 30 seconds. 30 seconds, ladies and gentlemen, and counting. Here we go. 25, 22, 21, 20, and 19, 18, 17, 16,
Well, as you can see, we're moving westward, now in New Zealand, over the next 25.5 hours, right around the world. So that's New Zealand's midnight, New Zealand's 2000. You can see in front of you in the Domain in Auckland. The event's been free to the public in New Zealand. With an expected audience, they told us, of about 100,000. They all seem to be having the time of their life, although at one point it looked like it had turned into a wet T-shirt competition. This is Auckland, New Zealand, and the year 2000 has reached them. Well, we've just seen New Zealand in the year 2000 arriving in their 2 islands, many others of course, but the north and the south being the main islands, and this, the island nation of Fiji in the Pacific. Also, 2000 for them.
I suppose when I was little, I was just good at sport and naturally a very, very competitive person. Okay, I use a wheelchair for mobility, but hey, that's it, you know, big deal. I mean, a lot of people treat you differently because of the way you look or you appear or sound, and that's stupid. It shouldn't be like that. And most of the time, I suppose I didn't even believe that I had a disability. It didn't occur to me a lot of the time. I mean, obviously, yes, I am different. I look different and I get around different. But as far as I was concerned, I was the same as everyone else, and I had to do everything the same as everyone else. I suppose a lot of people would turn around and say to me, well, you can't do that. And being a very stubborn person, I would turn around and say, well, watch me, I'll prove you wrong.
I think it's going to do a lot, not only for me, but for all athletes with a disability, because I'm the first one to win it, and it's amazing.
In the new millennium, I'd like to see Australia progress as a nation and become bigger and better, I suppose, at all the things we do now. But I suppose personally I'd like to see that people with a disability, the attitude towards them change and develop and be more, I suppose, accepted within the general community. My life is totally sport orientated, so, you know, that's the biggest thing that I think is going to happen in 2000 for Australia is the Olympics and the Paralympics. I should say the Paralympics and the Olympics.
Louise Savage, a genuine Australian icon. Coming up in the next half hour, we'll cross to the UK and the Royal Observatory in Greenwich, the home of Greenwich Mean Time, at this, you could say, special time for time. And we'll also hear the big voice of Annie Lennox, a favourite of many. Then we're off to Spain and the group that gained worldwide exposure during the closing ceremony of the Barcelona Olympics. Now to the West Coast, and where the West Australian Symphony Orchestra is tuning up as the crowd gathers on Perth's Cottesloe Beach. They're there to witness the very last sunset of 1999. The acclaimed Australian composer Peter Sculthorpe has reworked his evocative piece, Earth City, especially for this occasion, a reminder of the onerous task of being custodians, as we are, of this great land of ours. And from the West, we travel to the Sydney Opera House for a unique performance, House Dance, which was choreographed by the Australian Dance Theatre's Gary Stewart.